Good evening, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Cynthia, Nyamai. Now, tonight we will be telling you more about the IEBC reconstitution. In fact, I do want to take you over to the Kilimani courts in a few minutes. And then after that, I will be telling you more about KRA revenue performance. It's a story that we have been following up for you throughout this day. But first, let's have the highlights.
Alitoa mshango wake, si mchango wa serikali. Sababu ingekuwa ni mshango wa serikali, kanisa ingejengwa, ni kuandika vocha tunanjengewa, si ndio? Lakini tukamuomba pia anapoenda kule akapakisha kakitu kandogo atusaidie.
State House church upgrade. Bishop Bernard Njagi says they approached the president to modernize 3 structures. Facing murder charges, police officer who fatally shot hawker during protest faces murder charge as the second officer is set free. And tragic truth, missing medic Jane Wamboi found buried in a shallow grave at her Naivasha home. Welcome back. Remember, we would love to hear from you. You can send us your feedback on our social media pages. That is KBC Channel 1 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Now, a 3-judge bench of the High Court is currently delivering a judgment on the legality of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission nominees that have been contested in court. The decision by Lady Justice Roslyn Abuli, Justice John and Justice Bahati will be critical to the commissioners and the chair taking oath of office or not with the 2027 general elections 2 years away. Now, I want us to go to the Milimani High Court and listen in to the judgment that began at 5 p.m.
Decision appointing the IEBC commissioners for purposes of quashing, and we accordingly issue an order of certiorari quashing Gazette notices number 7724 and 7725, both dated 10th June 2025, to the extent that they purport to appoint the 1st to 7th interested parties as commissioners of the IEBC, that is the commission. In conclusion, we affirm that in order to enable Wanjiko secure and determine the form of governance of our country, the IEBC commissioners who will have the privilege of being appointed to assume office will earn the trust as they discharge their constitutional obligations, ensuring that the forthcoming elections are conducted in a free, fair, credible, and transparent manner. I will now let my brother, the Honorable Justice Chigiti, SC, to read for us whether the reliefs sought by the petitioners are available. Thank you.
We'll continue to follow up that story for you. We do have our reporter, Ruth Wamboi, and she is going to give us a conclusive report now. Bishop Bernard Njagi, a chief inspector based at State House, Nairobi, says he was among the team that approached President William Ruto to set up modern churches at State House. According to Bishop Njagi, this would enable the over 300 families housed in the facility to have decent places of worship. The cleric says the proposal to the president included the construction of a Catholic sanctuary, an interdenominational Protestant sanctuary, and a mosque, all currently existing but dilapidated. John Jacob Cura toured the facilities and filed the following report.
The insistence by President William Ruto that he will use his personal resources to erect a church to serve the more than 300 families who reside at State House has continued to elicit public debate.
nyinyi munaishi kwa manyumba mazuri, hata imewekwa mbao mzuri, alafu nyumba ya Mungu imeharibika. Hiyo swali nikiulizwa, nikienda nikipatana na Mungu, mnataka nijibu namna gani?
And on Thursday morning, the gates of State House were opened to media to have a true picture. The idea being to find out if indeed there was a church existing or coming up at the State House grounds. Our first discovery is an existing Catholic sanctuary, the St. Michael's Catholic Church State House, under Reverend Father Gerard Wanjala from the St. Paul's University Chapel and under the Nairobi Catholic Archdiocese, established in 2020.
Wakati tulikuwa na lockdown, atungetoka hapa twende mahali yoyote. So we have to source father akunje apeana ipanda kutoka D&D.
At the far end of a police and G company residence, occupied by elite officers who guard the president, we find yet another church. The Nairobi State House Interdenominational Chapel, led by Bishop Bernard Njagi, a chief inspector and the State House chaplain. Bishop Bernard tells us that the current church was erected with the help of former First Lady Margaret Kenyatta, who during her morning runs in 2019 discovered a caving building only to be told that it was a church in existence since 2005.
Hiyo kanisa munaona hapo tuliendedicate tarehe 15 mwezi wa 5 2019, ikiwa ni kanisa sasa ilifunguliwa hapa na former end of public service Mr. Kenywa wakiwa na state comptroller.
And recently, when President William Ruto was taking a walk in State House grounds, he also discovered the dilapidated church. Bishop Bernard tells us that they put the request to the president to erect an ultra-modern church that would serve more purposes than that of worship.
Tuko na family about 300 to 400 families ambao kienda kuangalia pamoja na watoto wetu nini inakuja population ya about 1,200. Tunapoteza wenzetu hapa, tunapoteza watoto, lakini hapa ndio sasa tunasabu pia kama all ambao tunakutana pamoja, tunaomboleza pamoja.
Nearby is a squeezed room used by police officers who profess the Muslim faith as a mosque. While questions linger on the cost of upgrading the two churches and a mosque, the chaplain was dismissive of the figures being quoted in public debate.
Alitoa mshango wake, si mchango wa serikali. Sababu ingekuwa ni mshango wa serikali, kanisa ingejengwa, ni kuandika vocha tunajengewa, si ndio? Lakini tukamuomba pia anapoenda kule akapakisha kakitu kandogo atusaidie.
There are three questions that beg answers, and this is what our fact-finding mission at State House discovered. Are there churches in State House? Yes, there are. 2 of them and a mosque. Is there a proposal to erect a new church? Yes, indeed. Is there one coming up? No. What is the budget? Not yet. John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
2 key rulings have today reshaped the trajectory of the high-profile case involving the fatal shooting of a 22-year-old hawker Boniface Karaoke. In separate decisions by the Magistrate Court and the High Court, the legal fate of the 2 suspected police officers took different turns after one was freed and the other detained for 14 days, after which he will plead to murder charges. Our reporter, Tua Deborah, now breaks it down for you.
At the Milimani Magistrates Court, Principal Magistrate Ben Mark Ekubi released the first suspect, Duncan Kiprono, citing lack of sufficient grounds to warrant continued detention over the death of Boniface Karaoke. The court noted that the prosecution had failed to provide compelling grounds to justify holding him further. Consequently, the case filed against Kiprono was officially closed and he was set at liberty.
So the second respondent herein will be set at liberty unless otherwise lawfully held. Furthermore, the first respondent will be remanded awaiting his arraignment before the High Court.
Meanwhile, the second suspect, Clinzy Masinde Baraza, who was allegedly captured on video during the shooting incident, remains in custody. In the ongoing investigation over the shooting of masked vendor Boniface Karaoke, one officer has been released, with the one who was caught on camera doing the act expected to take murder charge later this month. Over at the High Court, Justice Kanyi Kimondo issued fresh directions regarding Masinde Baraza. The judge ordered a 14-day mental assessment for Baraza before he can take a plea.
With the information, but now that he's formally on record, we undertake to supply him with all the prosecution evidence.
The assessment will be conducted while he remains in remand at Industrial Area Prison, while the plea taking now deferred to July 28, 2025.
He shall be escorted to Bagadi District Hospital or Kenyatta National Hospital or indeed any other convenient government facility for mental assessment.
Letua Deborah for Prime Edition from Milimani Law Courts.
Thank you for that report, Deborah. Now let's first take our break.
Wizara ya Afya inazindua kampeni ya chanjo ya homa ya matumbo na ukambi na surua kuanzia tarehe 5 hadi 14 Julai mwaka wa 2025. Watoto walio kati ya miezi 9 hadi miaka 14 watapewa chanjo ya homa ya matumbo. Watoto walio kati ya miezi 9 hadi miaka 5 watapewa chanjo ya ukambi na surua. Chanjo hizi ni salama na wahudumu wetu wa afya watapatikana katika vituo vyote vya afya, mashule, masoko na vyumba vya maombi karibu nawe. Homa ya matumbo ni hatari na ni muhimu kuendelea kuzingatia usafi wa maji na kanuni za usafi hata baada ya kupokea chanjo. Ukambi ni ugonjwa unaosambaa haraka na unaweza kusababisha matatizo makubwa mwilini na hata kifo. Chanjo dhidi ya ukambi hutoa kinga thabiti. Tuwalinde watoto wetu. Hakikisha wamepata chanjo hii. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Wizara ya Afya ikishirikiana na UNICEF na Shirika la Afya Duniani.
Welcome back. Interior Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has maintained that the recent demonstrations that led to deaths and destruction of property were engineered by people he termed as lords of violence. The CS has said the government will take firm action against people he termed as plotters of a coup, even as he urged the public to desist from attacking police officers. Murkomen, who was in Tana River County for the official opening of the Tarasa sub-county, also cautioned against making the issue tribal, calling for the public to coexist peacefully and work with police officers. He at the same time said that 2 of the 5 firearms stolen at the Dagoretti police station have been recovered.
Protest, that's not Mandamano. That was an attempted coup, an act of terrorism, a failed attempt to change regime. Kuna watu wametupatia lectures, wanatuambia ya kwamba eti tusishike wale ambao walivunja mali, walipiga police station, na wale ambao walichoma kotini, na wale waliumiza polisi na kuumiza wananchi, na wale wakora wenye waliiba bunduki. Tumeambiwa sasa ati kwa sababu ni cousins tusiwashike. Ati tunaambiwa ya kwamba kwa sababu wanatoka sehemu fulani tusiwashike. Wacha niwaambie kama wa Kenya, we cannot have a double speak. Hatuwezi waambiwa kwamba mali imeharibiwa, kwa nini serikali haichungi? Alafu tukishika wakora, watu wanakimbia wanasema kama kabila yetu tuchange pesa, tutoe hao watu kutoka korokoroni, tuhakikishe wasifungwe.
Alliance Girls High School Management has constituted an ad hoc committee to probe the alleged molestation of students by a male teacher for a known period of time. The committee will have the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers, that's KUPPET, the Ministry of Education, and the school's alumni. This came as the school's old girls staged demonstrations to demand the arrest of the teacher in question.
While carrying placards calling out the alleged wayward teacher, the school's alumni staged the demonstrations at the school's entrance, demanding his arrest. The male teacher is said to have been sexually molesting girls in the school. Parents Teachers Association chairman confirmed that the school has constituted ad hoc committee in collaboration with KUPPET, Ministry of Education, and the school's alumni to probe the said allegations, where an adequate report will be tabled by the end of the next week.
And we stand for fairness. We stand for justice. And as parents, we are going to facilitate that. When this thing came out on Friday, the parents, we met together, of course, with the school administration. And as parents' initiative, we have an ad hoc committee to look at it for safeguarding of the girls, for the current and for the future.
Alumni advocate Zara Nichesa and alumni of 2010 class said they will sue the school management for allegedly protecting the suspect since 2011.
Explicitly calling for the interdiction of Mr. Peter Airo in line with TSC disciplinary procedures and a comprehensive and impartial investigation into his professional conduct. 2, that Mr. Peter Airo be immediately suspended from all his duties, including teaching, extracurricular activities, and CU patronage, pending the outcome of this investigation.
Kiambu County Director of Education Simon Wanjohi said the ministry will take necessary actions and investigate the matter, and if found culpable, a disciplinary action against the suspected teacher will be applied.
Our team of investigators have been here from the Directorate of Quality Assurance. And one of the persons that needed really to be interviewed was the teacher also. But unfortunately, the teacher has not been here. So you allow us to let the investigating team finish its work. And I can assure you, the ministry, through our seniors, will act on all the recommendations.
For Prime Edition, I am Teresa Mutai.
The search for a missing medic from Naivasha Sub-County Hospital ended on a sad note after her decomposing body was discovered buried in a shallow grave in her compound. The body of Jane Wamboi Njoroge, a clinical officer, was discovered in her home in Riani Village a day after her house help was arrested in connection with her disappearance. In another incident in Uasin Gishu County, 3 pupils from Queen of Angels Academy died earlier today after a temporary pit latrine they were using collapsed.
This is Riani Village, Naivasha Sub-County in Nakuru County. Emotions ran high as officers from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations exhumed the body of Wamboi, with initial investigation revealing that a blunt object could have been used to kill her. Wamboi, who is a pediatrician at Naivasha Sub-County Hospital, was last seen on Friday last week in the hospital, and her whereabouts remain unknown as the family filed a report of a missing person to the police. According to her husband John Kimani, who works in Kitale, he last spoke to his wife on Friday last week.
Ndio tuliambiana na mama, huyu mama ako na huyu kijakazi yako na shida, wacha tumpee kazi. Sasa ndio tulimpea nyumba moja, tukamwambia kaa hapa kama kiateka. Sasa akawa anakuja nyumbani, akazoeana na mama, anaosha nyumba na pia anarudi kwake. Tulimfahamu kwa njia hiyo. Amekuwa ni msichana mpole na amekuwa anaongea pole pole, hatukuwa ifikiri. Tulifikiri amekuwa msichana mpole hivyo kwa sababu ya shida iliyoko katika nchi ya kiuchumi. Hatukuwa ifikiri.
Naivasha OCPD Anthony Keter confirmed the arrest, adding that the middle-aged woman, after interrogation, had led the investigation officers to the scene.
For now, we don't have the reason as to why she was killed, and that is why I'm saying we are still carrying on with our investigations. We'll be able to know that later. Seeking what? We have one suspect already who is assisting the police with the investigations.
Elsewhere, a resident and parents of Katibei location, Tapsagoi Ward in Uasin Gishu County are still in shock following the tragic death of 3 pupils from Queen of Angels Academy who died early Thursday morning after a temporary pit latrine collapsed while they were using it. According to the school management, the children had just finished their morning prayers before going to the pit lavatory, which suddenly caved in. Area Deputy Commissioner Charles Chesaito attributed the collapse to heavy rains that have been experienced in the area for the past 3 days.
Tumekuwa na mvua mingi sana kuanzia jana mpaka leo asubuhi that has caused one of the pit latrines at Queen of Angel kuweza kucollapse. Tumeweza kuretrieve wale watoto tukapeleka Tarbo Hospital.
Chanzo cha hii choo kuanguka na kuleta maafa ni mvua imenyesha kwa siku 3 mfululizo, zaidi ya siku 3. So kuanzia jana usiku mvua imekuwa ikinyesha usiku yote, na ilileta hiyo choo kuanguka ndani na kuweza kufunika watoto.
Welcome back. Now, health stakeholders are calling for increased investment in cancer treatment in the country. Led by the Kenyan Network of Cancer Organizations, Executive Director Phoebe Ongadi, players in the sector warned of the rising burden of the disease, which they say continues to expose the country to a public health crisis. The clarion call was made during a media engagement ahead of the 2nd National Cancer Summit, slated for the 27th to 30th July.
The prevalence of cancer disease is on the rise, with the National Cancer Institute of Kenya recording 44,000 new cases annually and approximately 27,000 resultant fatalities. These are not just figures, they are a harsh reality of a looming public health crisis, which according to the Institute's CEO, Dr. Elias Meli, require urgent and concerted efforts to arrest.
In our farms, in our communities, we need to have very dedicated strategies to make sure all the chemicals that have been identified to have carcinogenic effects should be banned.
Take screening, early detection, prevention, diagnostics, treatment, palliative care, and survivorship to the next level.
Stakeholders in the health sector who met during a media engagement forum in Nairobi, however, cited the lack of sufficient financial resources and the infrastructural capacity allocated to the cancer treatment in the country, which is a big setback.
Are there equipment that they need? Is there infrastructure? So we need the concerted efforts, not just from the National Cancer Institute and the Ministry of Health, but the county governments should also move in because health is devolved.
The stakeholders called for a review and expansion of the Social Health Authority's oncology benefits package to meet the growing demand for quality and affordable cancer care.
The Social Health Authority and the Social Health Insurance Fund, on paper, it is magnificent. In fact, on paper, it is supposed to cover the whole continuum of cancer care, right from diagnosis to treatment. So we are still urging the government and urging the ministry to please go back to that paper, what is enshrined in the Social Health Authority, and ensure that it is actually what we are seeing on the ground.
Cancer survivors who attended the event advocated for heightened community sensitization to dispel myths surrounding cancer and alleviate victimization during and after treatment.
Are we best in stigmatizing? Because basically, I'm known by some of you here as Mama wa Matiti Moja. And for me to take that name, it was not easy. Can you imagine, as you walk around in your area and people are saying that, ule mama ni Mama wa Matiti Moja. Hey, tunamka mtema siku. And then they start. By the time you are, everybody, all the eyes are in you.
We have to engage our patients as active partners, and we have to manage them in the entire healthcare continuum, whether it comes to primary prevention, secondary prevention, or early diagnosis, when it comes to the aspects of diagnostics, when it comes to treatment, and also survivorship, palliative care, and end-of-life care. We have to involve our patients.
The summit will seek to review the progress in cancer prevention, detection and treatment, and the national coordination efforts in the country. John Kahiro, Prime Edition.
It is now time for business. Kenya continues to rely heavily on a narrow range of traditional exports with limited gains in the high-tech sector. The 2025 Country Economic Transformation Outlook by Kenya Institute of Public Policy Analysis says small businesses in the manufacturing sector are focused on domestic and regional markets rather than tapping into direct exports. The report further says while export processing zones have enhanced production capacity, diversification of products and markets remain limited.
According to the KIPRA report, manufacturing activity in Kenya remains concentrated in low value-added goods and is geographically limited to a few counties, mainly due to infrastructure gaps, market access challenges, and shortage of skilled labor. High operational costs further hinder product innovation and export competitiveness. While digital innovation has advanced, progress is slowed by an unfriendly business climate, limited financing options, and constrained market reach. High input costs, regulatory hurdles, and complex licensing requirements continue to pose barriers, especially for small businesses. Existing support programs are insufficient, and KIPRA recommends targeted interventions such as establishing county-level one-stop shops for MSME licensing, reforming microfinance to offer low-interest loans, and developing digital platforms to provide real-time business information. To boost women entrepreneurs, the report suggests mentorship through role models, peer learning opportunities, financial support, and temporary regulatory relief, especially for digital startups. Many firms lack basic work protections, such as safe work environments, maternity or paternity leave, anti-harassment protocols, labor rights enforcement, and minimum wage compliance. Now, female employees in particular face cultural biases, delayed payments, and exploitative practices. Wairi Mujenga for Prime Edition.
Renewed trade tariffs imposed by the United States, global inflation and tension in the Middle East are posing a risk to the global economy. However, the softening of the US dollar is projected to continue for the rest of the year, having a positive impact on the equities and local currency bonds in the emerging markets. This is according to the Standard Chartered Bank Global Market Outlook for the second half of 2025.
The International Monetary Fund projects that the global economy will slow down to 2.8% in 2025 on account of greater policy uncertainty, trade tensions, and softer demand momentum. Standard Chartered Bank, in its global market outlook for the second half of 2025, projects that the dollar will continue weakening. This, the Chief Investment Officer, Manpreet Gill, says is good news for emerging markets like Kenya.
What's really interesting is that periods of a weak dollar tend to actually be really good for financial markets, for equities, but particularly non-US equities. But we should expect some volatility. These things never happen in a straight line. And we do think we'll see many more interest and opportunities outside the US, wave moving our equity overweight to Asia ex-Japan, for example.
On the renewed tariffs by the United States that have occasioned reciprocal tariffs, the bank says there will likely be more clarity on the impact on trade over the next 2 months once ongoing trade talks are completed.
One is, I think, in the next month or two, we're going to get a much tighter framework in terms of what actual trade deals between the US and various markets around the world and including Africa look like. And I think that's going to give the market some indication on when tariffs ultimately end up. And we think there's a good chance they'll be not quite as bad as was initially feared in April.
Manpreet says the impact of the tensions in the Middle East should be minimal on oil prices as long as oil supply is not disrupted.
But what markets care about, and markets always have a narrow view of the world, right, is they were singularly focused on whether actual oil supply was likely to be disrupted. And I think that brief rise we saw towards $80, we never quite got there, was pricing in a non-zero chance or probability that, wait, maybe we need to pay some attention to this. But I think fortunately what we ended up experiencing is that while there is a geopolitical issue that is at hand, direct interruption of supplies did not happen.
Betty Kiptum, Prime Edition.
The government has suspended sugar milling operations in parts of western Kenya for 3 months, starting July 11th, in a bid to address a severe cane shortage and stabilize the sector. Kenya Sugar Board Chief Executive Jude Chesire says the move comes as the Sugar Development Levy officially takes effect to boost cane production and eliminate sugar imports by 2027.
The Kenya Sugar Board says the suspension affects major millers including Nzoia, Butali, West Kenya, Mumias and Busia Sugar, citing an acute shortage of mature cane. Kenya Sugar Board Chief Jude Chesire says millers will be required to intensify cane development as a 2-month consensus is conducted to assess field readiness.
We want to make sure that we have a document that at least will make sure that whatever we are collecting reaches the intended purpose and is paid within the stipulated period.
The Kenya Sugar Board says the exercise will help the region to boost production. This comes even as the Sugar Development Levy comes into effect. Under the new levy, producers and importers will pay 4% of the sugar value, generating over 5 billion shillings annually. The government says the funds collected will be used for cane development, road rehabilitation, factory modernization and support for farmer institutions.
We have to have clear guidelines of, yes, we have the money, how do we give it, and how do we share it within the provisions of the law, and what are the obligations of those who are handling the money.
To enhance compliance with the new Sugar Development Levy framework, the Kenya Revenue Authority has been tasked to oversee levy collections as reforms take shape to restore sustainability in the sugar industry.
We want to see how we can develop very tight but enforceable contracts between the millers and the farmers, so that, because that is the only way you can have discipline in the sector, or the subsector as it were.
Ndutamo Kami for Prime Edition.
The Kenya Revenue Authority, KRA, has surpassed its revenue target of 2.55 trillion shillings for the financial year 2024-2025 after Kenyans paid 2.57 trillion shillings in taxes. Kenya Revenue Authority Commissioner General Humphrey Watanga attributes the growth of 6.8% from 2.41 trillion shillings collected in the last financial year to robust revenue collection measures, improved economic conditions, and the easing of inflation and the reductions of international oil prices.
The taxman reports that in the financial year 2024-2025, its revenue collection measures also yielded significant revenue collection turnarounds in the second half of the financial year. Revenue grew by 9.1% compared to the 4.5% growth recorded in the first half of the financial year. Domestic VAT collection stood at 327.336 billion shillings, reflecting a growth of 4.2% compared to the previous year. This after KRA implemented a raft of VAT compliance initiatives to seal revenue loopholes. These initiatives included stricter VAT registration controls and verification of declarations. Excise tax on betting services, on the other hand, surpassed the target after registering a surplus of 1.945 billion shillings after collecting 13.233 billion shillings against a target of 11.288 billion shillings. Pay as you earn or pay and KRA 560.963 billion shillings, signifying a growth of 3.3%. Despite the slow growth, the tax head recorded a performance rate of 99%. Further, exchequer revenue grew by 4.5% after KRA collected 2.323 trillion shillings compared to 2.223 trillion shillings collected in the previous financial year. This translates to a performance rate of 99% against a target of 2.347 trillion shillings, indicating that the taxman was well underway in ring-fencing tax payment loopholes. KRA also collected 248.276 billion shillings on behalf of other government agencies, surpassing the target by 40.465 billion shillings.
Alan Auko, Prime Edition.
Welcome back. It's now time for sports. President William Ruto has pledged his support to the National Super League champions Nairobi United after meeting them today at State House, Nairobi. President Ruto commended the team for their stunning success this season, pledging to donate a bus to the side that also won the Mezzabet Cup. President Ruto added that the government is keen on expanding sporting facilities across the country as outlined in the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto.
When I see the team, I try to catch up with some of your names. You know, I could see that we have a national team here. A team of the Kenyan community. A team that is truly the face, the brand, and the architecture of Kenya. You know, from all communities, from all faiths, people who come from different backgrounds, you have gelled into one formidable team that today we celebrate your success. And so it should be with our nation, you know? So it should be with our nation. That is why I will stand firm to reject the politics of ethnicity and division and hate and the politics that creates divisions among us Kenyans. I will stand very firm.
Rais amekuwa akisema kwamba ushikano wa maendeleo haujengwi kwa mkusanyiko wa watu wamoja, bimana kabila moja. Na kutokana na hilo tunafurahikia kwa sababu uongozi mzima wa timu yangu ama timu yetu uliamua ya kwamba mchanga kwa kuweka jiwe peke yake hauwezi kuamsha mwamba, na ukaweza kufafanua kwa kuamua kufanya nini, kwa kuchanganya mchanga, simiti na maji ili kuweza kupatikana matokeo mazuri.
Sports Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya has urged Kenyans to rally behind the national soccer team Harambee Stars ahead of the forthcoming African Nations Championship. Honorable Mvurya reiterated the government's support to the team's preparations for the 19-team championship reserved for players playing their trade in their respective domestic leagues. Harambee Stars are already in camp in preparation for the tournament scheduled to take place from the 2nd to 30th of August in Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania, and broadcast live on KBC Channel 1.
With less than 20 days to go, Harambee Stars preparations enter a crucial phase ahead of CHAN, with Sports Cabinet Secretary Salim Mvurya throwing his weight behind the team.
Representing your country on home soil is a rare privilege. Seize it with everything you've got. Compete with honor and play with heart. When you rise, we all rise. When you fight, we stand with you.
We have done everything possible together with this government to ensure that we've given them everything they need to succeed.
All eyes will be fixed on Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania during the 28-day showpiece, a period that will also act as an avenue for the three Swahili-speaking nations to showcase their culture to the rest of the continent.
Our call to stand together, not just in support of our team, but in celebration of who we are as a people.
Meanwhile, Harambee Stars head coach Benny McCarthy says the unavailability of last season's Football Kenya Federation Premier League top scorer Moses Shuma and Talanta FC's forward Emmanuel Osoro is an opportunity for the rest of the players to fight for the slots. The duo, despite being named in the provisional squad a week ago, haven't reported to the training camp yet due to varied reasons.
It's fantastic when players excel and they get the opportunity to go play in bigger leagues and expand themselves. It only brings more success to the Kenyan national team, and it opens up the door for another young player to come and learn his trades with the team and help us to move forward.
Kenya is set to take part in a Four Nations pre-CHAN tournament slated from the 24th through to the 27th of July in Arusha, Tanzania. Kenya will take on Tanzania on the 24th of July, while Uganda will face Sudan. The winners of both matches will progress to the final on Sunday, the 27th of July, while the losing sides will square it off in the third-place playoff.
When you play top-class opposition that we have, that is fundamental for us, because it's good preparation and it happens to be just right before the CHAN starts, so it will give our players also a good indication of where the levels that we are.
After the warm-up tournament, McCarthy is expected to name his final squad ahead of Kenya's Group A opener on the 3rd of August against Democratic Republic of Congo. Kenya will also play Angola, Morocco and Zambia in the group stage. Bernard Okumo, Prime Edition.
The Parliamentary Committee on Sports has instructed the National Olympic Committee of Kenya, NOCK, to hold the disputed elections according to its constitution. In a letter addressed to NOCK, Secretary General Francis Mutuku, the committee called for strict adherence to the directions issued by the International Committee, IOC, regarding the eligibility of the voting candidates. Well, that's it for sports. And from me and the rest of the team, we do want to wish you a very good night.
morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kenya.
Wake up with Good Morning Kenya, the morning show that's got it all. We dive deep into issues shaping our country.
Youth are a voice of a nation.
What is the next step for the young people?
Unpacking political landscape from Monday to Wednesday.
We discuss family matters.
It is very important to guard your relationship.